Between heaven and earth, the primordial energy surged in violent torrents. A colossal array, crimson portals, and roaring thunder dragons erupted with terrifying energy waves that sent shock across countless faces. Such a triple-layered assault could annihilate any warrior at minor completion of the Death Mystique stage. Even those at great completion would hesitate to face it head-on. And yet, this man could unleash such power with only perfect completion of the Genesis Mystique stage. Ancient cosmic formation, reversal. Lin Dong stepped into the air, channeling every ounce of energy within him. His hand seal shifted, and a low shout reverberated. Rumble. In the sky, a massive array began to rotate, gathering boundless energy that radiated an overwhelming force across the land. 8 extreme scorching heaven gate, activate. Lin Dong roared again as the heaven-burning cauldron trembled. 8 blazing red lights shot into the sky, each merging with one of the 8 scorching heaven gates overhead. Boom! With the crimson lights flooding into them, the scorching heaven gates expanded, intertwining beams of red that gradually took the form of an enormous mountain. 9 dragons returned to the origin, Thunder Emperor's seal. Lin Dong stepped forward, and the Thunder Emperor's scepter in his hand crackled with explosive power. Brilliant streams of lightning surged forth, a formidable aura emanating from the scepter. The Thunder Emperor's scepter, no weaker than the heaven-burning cauldron, even surpassed it in pure offensive power. Although Lin Dong had seldom tapped into its full potential, he was now ready to unleash everything to face this powerful enemy. Rumble. 9 thunder dragons spiraled through the sky, interlocking to form a massive lightning seal that hovered ominously above. Such powerful attacks. Tang Xinlian, gazing at the formidable forces whirling in the sky, clenched her delicate fists. Despite her strength, she felt the unmistakable chill of danger from this overwhelming assault. This guy. Her beautiful eyes fixed on the young figure standing in midair. Emo Luo's high regard for him now seemed to have its reasons. Beneath that lean frame, a power lay hidden that perhaps even she could not rival. Lin Dong, it's all on you now. In the sky, Hua Chun and Su Xiu exchanged wary glances as they looked at the astounding offensive. Even in Hua Chin's perpetually cold, mocking eyes, a hint of surprise flickered. This display had already surpassed what one would expect from perfect completion of the Genesis Mystique stage. Truly surprising. Hua Chin chuckled, but black flames steadily began to rise around him, his dark pupils growing even more sinister. This boy is dangerous. He must be eliminated, Su Xiu murmured, his gaze fixed on Lin Dong. Don't worry. He won't survive today. Hua Chin sneered. Lin Dong looked at them across the sky with cold detachment, raising his hand in their direction. In the next instant, his gaze sharpened fiercely. Triple assault, demon-slaying strike. Boom. As Lin Dong's shout faded, light rapidly gathered in the vast array above, condensing into a colossal beam of energy that shot forward with a terrifying roar. From within the fiery formation, the towering mountain of flame fully materialized, magma surging at its peak. The mountain shattered space itself as it descended, casting an enormous shadow toward Hua Chun and Su Xiu. Roar! Suspended in the sky, the Thunder Emperor's seal crackled as if thunder dragons were coiling around it. Their roars echoed as they transformed into blinding lightning, crashing downward. Rumble. The 3 mighty assaults tore through the sky, and even seasoned warriors could not help but feel their hearts race. Such an onslaught would leave even a great completion Death Mystique stage warrior wary of a head-on clash. Lin Dong, I'll make you realize that the gap between us isn't something you can bridge with mere tricks. Yet, facing this fierce offensive, Hua Chin only laughed, his laughter echoing as torrents of dark flame erupted around him, casting a terrifying shadow across the sky. Grand celestial demon body, obliteration of all. As black flames engulfed the heavens, it seemed as though the entire world within the boundless mirror grew dark. Soul-devouring palm. Su Xiu's pitch-black arm extended, his gaze icy. His hand closed, and as it did, space tore open behind him, revealing a colossal 1,000-foot black palm from another realm, pulsing with unfathomable malice, ready to meet Lin Dong's strike. Boom! It was as if the heavens themselves exploded. A colossal wave of attacks roared through the sky, finally colliding with a thunderous boom, like meteors crashing together under the gazes of countless onlookers. Boom! At the moment of impact, a deafening explosion echoed, and an indescribable shockwave of energy, like a tidal wave, spread spectacularly across the heavens. Crash! 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 On Boundless Mountain, towering peaks began to crumble one after another under the impact, with boulders tumbling down and the ground trembling violently. Both inside and outside the boundless mirror, countless eyes were fixed intently on the center of the energy clash. In this ferocious battle, who would prove stronger? The wild and chaotic energy was finally dispersed, and as it cleared, black flames rose. A burst of laughter echoed through the sky. Lin Dong, is that the best you've got? It doesn't seem that impressive. Eyes followed the sound of laughter, landing on Hua Chun, who emerged from the black flames. Though his body bore some injuries, his aura remained ferociously powerful. Far behind him, the space torn open behind Su Xiu slowly began to close, and the massive palm that had stretched thousands of feet had completely vanished. He actually shattered our attack. Su Xiu's diamond-shaped pupils narrowed as he stared at the distant, slender figure of Lin Dong. Though they had managed to block his astonishing triple-layered assault, it had taken all their strength. He knew that despite Hua Qin's mocking sneer, Lin Dong's power had definitely shaken him. This opponent was far from simple. So, his attack was thwarted, Mu Lingshan muttered, a hint of frustration in her large eyes. This isn't a defeat. Tang Xinlian shook her head gently. Hua Qin and Su Xiu didn't hold back at all, and even then, it took both of them to stop Lin Dong's triple assault. It's not a loss for Lin Dong. Even she would have struggled to withstand such an assault, yet Lin Dong had managed to defend against it. Don't celebrate too soon. As the energy ripples faded, a slender figure suddenly reappeared in the sky. Lin Dong's gaze locked onto Hua Chun and Su Xiu in the distance, and a slight smile tugged at the corner of his lips. Then, his hands clenched tightly. Azure Dragon Light runes, come forth. Roar. Brilliant azure light erupted from Lin Dong's body, and 50 azure dragon light runes surged out, brimming with an awe-inspiring power that sent waves of shock through the sky. The roar of dragons echoed across the heavens, carrying an overwhelming power that even caused the space around them to tremble. Countless gazes were drawn upwards, staring in awe at the mighty azure dragon light runes flying through the air. The dragons coiled and writhed, their massive bodies rippling with strength, as if their azure scales concealed the power to move mountains. 50 azure dragon light runes. The sheer magnitude of this power left everyone stunned. This power, it's even stronger than Zhou's myriad elephant heavenly technique. Tang Xinlian murmured in astonishment, her eyes locked on Lin Dong. The fierce energy surging around him far exceeded Zhou's. That's Lin Dong's trump card. It's said to be the ancient Azure Dragon King Qingji's ultimate technique, Mu Lingshan said with admiration in her wide eyes. She had never seen Lin Dong back down, no matter the odds. It was as if his heart held an unshakable confidence, and it was this confidence that had enabled him to repeatedly turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. This guy. Not far away, Zhou's expression was conflicted. He knew from Tang Xinlian that Mo Luo had placed his bets on Lin Dong in this battle. At first, this had made Zhou uncomfortable. After all, in the Chaos Demon Sea, his reputation far exceeded that of the newly risen Lin Dong. Though he had heard of Lin Dong's feats, he hadn't believed the latter could surpass him. But now, as he watched Lin Dong's display of strength, those feelings of resentment were slowly fading away. The young man who had stepped forward at the critical moment was, without a doubt, using every ounce of his strength to turn the tide of the battle. The Azure Dragon surged forward as Lin Dong's eyes narrowed, a brilliant azure gleam sharpening his gaze upon Hua Chun in the distance. In the next instant, his toes tapped sharply, and a dragon shadow whistled across the sky, piercing through space with astonishing speed, appearing right in front of Hua Chun. So fast. Hua Qin's pupils contracted as Lin Dong's abrupt advance took him by surprise. The 50 Azure dragon patterns swirling around Lin Dong's body caused his skin to prickle painfully. Attack together. Black flames erupted wildly from Hua Chun, and he prepared to shout an order. But he immediately frowned, realizing that Su Xiu was far behind, too distant to strike alongside him in time. This guy, was that whole barrage just a ploy to split us up? A flash of alarm crossed Hua Chen's eyes. But his expression quickly turned fierce, and with a cold sneer, he said, "Even if I'm alone, taking you down is child's play." With a menacing grin, he summoned the black flames toward his palm. "Grand Celestial Flame Demon Palm," he shouted, his voice low and menacing. A powerful wave surged outward as his fist gathered the black fire, then launched forward in an unassuming punch. Boom. Though the punch seemed simple, everyone around could see the space rippling and warping under its pressure. The black flames spiraled around his fist, radiating a terrifying destructive force. "One strike to finish you." Hua Chen's icy gaze locked on Lin Dong, who was close enough now that his outline shimmered in azure. Lin Dong's eyes glowed as he met Hua Chen's fierce counterattack head-on, showing no intention to dodge. Tightening his fist, he thrust forward. Roar. 50 Azure dragon patterns howled, coiling onto Lin Dong's fist like wild dragons breaking free. Azure Dragon Celestial Seal. His shout thundered as a condensed Azure Dragon fist mark took shape and blasted through the void, slamming into Hua Chen's black flame-laden fist under countless stunned gazes. Bang! The collision echoed like distant thunder, and in the next moment, a spiraling storm of azure and black exploded between them. The raging energies cracked a nearby mountain peak, shattering it into rubble. Whiz! The warriors close to the battle zone recoiled in alarm, hastily retreating to avoid the spreading storm. Even a great completion death mystique expert would be in dire straits if caught in that swirling maelstrom of azure and black. They clashed with such force. From afar, Su Xiu watched the storm, his narrowed eyes reflecting a newfound gravity. Even he couldn't underestimate the sheer power of Lin Dong's strike. Boom. Just as countless eyes were fixed on the vortex of spinning azure and black, the whirlwind distorted, and azure and black light erupted from either side. Crack. The two figures shot backward from the storm, each forced to retreat several thousand feet before stabilizing in midair. Swoosh. As the two figures emerged, every gaze, both inside and outside the boundless mirror, fixated upon them. The azure light faded first, revealing Lin Dong's slim figure. His sleeves had been shredded to dust, and blood trickled down his arms, dripping from his fingertips. Hua Chun. Amid the shocked murmurs directed at Lin Dong's state, gasps suddenly erupted. All eyes shifted toward the other side of the sky, where the black flames dissipated, revealing Hua Chun to countless onlookers. A collective gasp followed. Hua Chun stood nearly bare-chested, with scars trailing from his fists up his arms, covering his entire upper body in a battered, desperate state. Yet, what truly stunned the crowd was not his disheveled appearance, but his twisted right arm, with a sharp bone spur jutting from his shoulder, blood streaming down. In the fierce exchange, Hua Chun's arm had been broken. No one could have anticipated that Hua Chun, who had decisively defeated Tang Xinlian earlier, would now find himself in such a direct confrontation, losing an arm to Lin Dong. Could Lin Dong's punch really be that terrifying? A heavy silence blanketed the air. Lin Dong exhaled heavily, then clenched his fists, allowing the devouring force within him to consume the strange black flames that had invaded his body. Just an arm lost. His strength is truly something else, Lin Dong muttered, a slight frown on his face as he looked at the disheveled figure of Hua Chun. Despite channeling 50 Azure Dragon Light runes, he hadn't been able to eliminate Hua Chun completely. A quiet sigh escaped him, acknowledging his opponent's power. Amazing! As Lin Dong sighed, Hua Chun, hovering in the distant sky, glanced at his distorted arm with a crazed flicker in his eyes. After a moment, his gaze grew unnervingly cold and detached. Extending his hand, he gripped his injured right arm and ripped it off without hesitation. The sickening sound of bones snapping rang out, and blood splattered through the air. Everyone watched in horror as Hua Chun tore off his own arm. Lin Dong's eyes narrowed as he observed Hua Chun, his expression unreadable. "So, this is your trump card, is it?" Lin Dong asked. Hua Chun raised his gaze slowly, his dark, hollow pupils locking onto Lin Dong, his voice chillingly emotionless as it spread across the sky. "Su Xiu, lift the seal. I want to kill him." Silence fell over the world. Countless eyes were fixed on Hua Chun, his face twisted in rage and then transforming into an eerie calm. Blood continued to drip from his severed arm, intensifying the ominous atmosphere. Su Xiu appeared beside Hua Chun, casting a glance at his companion's injuries, a flash of shock in his eyes. He hadn't expected Lin Dong to inflict such damage on Hua Chun. "I told you, there's something strange about that kid. Don't underestimate him," Su Xiu said darkly. "No matter," Hua Chun replied with a cold smile. His gaze fixed on Lin Dong in the distance, venom and rage welling up in his eyes. No matter how much he struggles, the result will only be one thing: death. A twisted smile crossed Hua Chun's face as he smeared his severed arm's blood across his palm, fingers tracing intricate symbols in midair, creating ominous blood-red runes. "Is he really unsealing it?" Su Xiu muttered, his diamond-shaped pupils contracting slightly. Lin Dong had indeed forced Hua Chun this far. The blood runes hovered before Hua Chun, black flames suddenly igniting around them. As he changed his hand seals, the fiery blood runes shot into his forehead, heart, and dantian. As these symbols entered his body, Hua Chun's entire form froze. In that instant, it was as if his presence had vanished from the world. In the distance, Tang Xinlian and Jose watched, anxiety rising as they sensed an impending threat. Lin Dong also narrowed his eyes, his fist slowly clenching. An eerie silence loomed over the heavens and earth, though it didn't last long. Suddenly, some noticed the temperature begin to drop, an unnatural chill settling around them. A faint hiss filled the air. A dark mist seeped from Hua Chun's body, distorting the surrounding space as it spread, emitting a mournful, sinister wail. The black mist billowed, and Hua Chun lifted his head abruptly. Deep within his pupils, traces of blood red began to gather, an ominous and malevolent gleam filling his gaze. Boom! Blood-red eyes wide open. Hua Chun's aura exploded once again, this time surging and growing at an astonishing speed. Winds howled as his robes whipped wildly, his form enveloped in the sinister black mist, making him appear as if an evil deity had descended upon the world. Such a force! Beyond the boundless mirror, countless onlookers were stunned by Hua Chun's unleashed power, none expecting him to harbor such terrifying strength. "Damn it," Gu Mingqi murmured, clenching her fists as the joy she felt at Hua Chun's injury vanished. Lin Dong had barely gained an upper hand, only to have it overturned so quickly. Beside her, worry flickered across the faces of Gu Yin and her companion. Hua Chun's power was truly monstrous. Even among the Gu clan, few could rival him. At the Flame Deity Palace, Missouri Luo's crimson gaze sharpened as he fixed his eyes on the boundless mirror, where black mists were raging. Faint flames flickered along his body. "It's indeed the aura of an alien demon, though not entirely pure," the elder of the Flame Deity Palace muttered, frowning. Even so, Hua Chun's strength has increased drastically. For Lin Dong, defending against him will be far more difficult. Earlier, Lin Dong's offensive maneuvers had even surprised the elder, especially when he managed to sever Hua Chun's arm, a feat that delighted him. Yet, it seemed that the hard-earned advantage Lin Dong had gained might now slip away completely. Against these alien demons, Lin Dong, still among the younger generation, indeed faced a tough challenge. Mo Luo's eyes remained fixed on the boundless mirror, where a slender young man was observing the transformed Hua Chun. Yet, despite the chaos, Mo Luo detected no panic on that young face. Instead, he chuckled, admiration flashing in his gaze. Qing Ji has an eye for talent. Anyone he admires is never simple. It's too soon to declare any outcome before the final moment. This must be the power of a demon seed. Definitely troublesome. Lin Dong tightened his lips, eyeing the overwhelming evil aura rolling forth, though he felt little surprise at Hua Chen's methods, having seen something similar used by Hui Yuan and his companions before. So, you know quite a lot, Hua Chen sneered, his blood-red eyes fixated on Lin Dong, resentment brimming within. He sneered further. Those rounds of attacks must have drained much of your primordial energy, right? Lin Dong frowned, tightening his grip. His own energy cultivation, although at the perfect completion of the life mystique stage, was weaker than Hua Chun, who had reached the great completion of the death mystique stage. Were it not for his spirit and the devouring abilities of the Ancestral Talisman that allowed him to absorb ambient primordial energy, Lin Dong wouldn't have endured this long. So, what do you have left to stand against me? Hua Chen's lips curled into a mocking smile. Don't worry. Once I defeat you, I'll tear each of your limbs off. Lin Dong, let's join forces. From the nearby mountain, Tang Xinlian and Zhou Zhe, having regained some strength, emerged, calling out resolutely. Lin Dong looked at them, shaking his head helplessly. Both were still heavily injured, and without the Ancestral Talisman, recovering their strength quickly was impossible. At least we can buy some time. Zhou Zhe gritted his teeth, his gaze lingering reluctantly and warily on Hua Chun, now shrouded in dark energy. After a moment's hesitation, he muttered, "This guy's way stronger than before. You won't be his match. You've also drained too much power fighting alone," added Tang Xinlian. With a sigh, Lin Dong waved them off. Their current state couldn't do much to alter the situation. Instead, he turned to Tang Xinlian, his voice soft. "Trust me." Tang Xinlian was momentarily taken aback, her beautiful eyes meeting Lin Dong's determined gaze. Even in this situation, there wasn't a trace of fear in him. "Be careful." She clenched her jade-like hands. Although her rationality told her Lin Dong was in no condition to fight, his steady gaze kept her from uttering any more objections. Zhou Zhe sighed with a wry smile. Was he still trying to act tough? A true disciple of the Tao sect, Hua Chen sneered, just as stubborn as Zhou Tong back then. But unfortunately, he added with a chilling laugh, "You'll end up just like him." Yet, Lin Dong seemed unaffected by Hua Chen's taunts. Slowly descending, he landed atop a towering peak. "Let's see this through to the end." Lin Dong raised his head, his pitch-black eyes locking onto Hua Chun and Su Xiao in the distance. Slowly, he spread his hands, strange seals forming at his fingertips. Buzz. Under the puzzled gazes of countless onlookers, the ground beneath Lin Dong's feet trembled slightly. A peculiar pulse radiated out with a resounding boom, sweeping through the area. As the pulse spread, a wave of astonishment surged throughout the crowd. They saw the earth for miles around begin to wither at a startling speed. What is this? Hua Chen's blood-red eyes narrowed, an intense sense of danger gripping his heart. The great wilderness scripture? The entire land trembled violently, mountains quaked, and boulders tumbled. The once lush mountains swiftly turned withered and yellow, shrouded in a desolate barrenness that quietly enveloped the land. This startling transformation immediately drew the attention of numerous powerful figures. Their expressions changed dramatically as they sensed, almost instinctively, the Earth's life force sinking underground, converging, and ultimately flowing in a single direction. Swish. All eyes followed that direction. There, a young man stood grounded, his arms outstretched. Though his figure was lean, in that moment, he exuded a presence grand enough to hold up the heavens. This is Tang Xinlian and Zhou Zhe, among others, looked in astonishment at the ground beneath their feet. With their keen senses, they detected a violent surge within the Earth's force, funneling rapidly into the distant figure. He can absorb the power of the Earth, such an overwhelmingly mysterious martial art. Tang Xinlian's beautiful eyes sparkled as she gazed intently at the young man. Although he seemed unremarkable at first glance, his aura concealed layers of mystery that made him difficult to fathom. Beside her, Zhou Zhe crouched down, grasping a handful of soil. A primeval scent of desolation emanated from it, making him feel as though he had returned to an ancient, untamed era. I wonder if this could rival Hua Chan. Boom. Cracks suddenly split across the mountain Lin Dong was on. From these fissures, A violent surge of energy erupted skyward, tearing through the clouds. Around him, an ocean-like energy amassed, warping the space with its sheer force. Even great completion experts of the death mystique stage felt a grave heaviness upon witnessing this vast power. From a bird's-eye view, 100-mile radius around Boundless Mountain had turned into a barren wasteland, its energies drawn away and absorbed by Lin Dong. So you really mastered the Dao sect's great wilderness scripture. Hua Qin's cold sneer gradually faded as he watched Lin Dong, whose power surged. Though his expression remained sullen, he had to admit that Lin Dong had become a worthy opponent. All previous disdain vanished. Any who faced Lin Dong's surging potential would be compelled to take him seriously. But you think this alone can stop me? Hua Qin's eyes flashed with ferocity. His hands formed seals, a low growl emanating from his throat. A black sigil emerged at his brow, releasing torrents of black energy that darkened the heavens further. All eyes turned to the two as they reached the limits of their power. None could have anticipated that the competition would escalate to such an extent. This level of combat was rare, even among senior powerhouses. Damn it, Hua Qin's power just keeps growing, Tang Xinlian murmured. Her silver teeth clenched as she observed his strengthening aura. They're both going all out now. Jose smiled wryly. Neither could back down. When two fierce tigers clash, one is bound to fall. Not enough. Lin Dong slowly extended his palm, clenching it gently as boundless energy gathered in his grasp, causing even space itself to tremble slightly. He could feel that, if he wished, he could shatter Boundless Mountain with a single punch. However, he looked toward the black fog in the distance, where Hua Qin's energy was also intensifying. At this level, one strike wouldn't be enough to resolve everything. Great wilderness scripture. Unleash all your power and make your name resonate even in the distant chaos demon sea. The murmur rippled through Lin Dong's mind. In the next instant, he bent down and slammed both palms onto the ground. Boom. The entire mountain shook violently. Buzz. As Lin Dong's hands made contact with the ground, a powerful pulse radiated from his palms, causing the earth to tremble. To everyone's astonishment, the barren wasteland resumed its rapid spread. As Lin Dong's strength continued to grow, the power of the great wilderness scripture unknowingly reached an astounding level. Back in Chaos Demon City, when Lin Dong activated the great wilderness scripture, it could at most turn 100 miles of land into desolation. But now, that area had expanded exponentially. Desolation spread madly, finally slowing down under countless stunned gazes. When the boundary of desolation fully halted, the entire 800 miles within Boundless Mountain had turned into a barren, yellowed wasteland. The aura of desolation surged, filling the heavens and earth, even forcing the oppressive black mist into retreat. Crack. Lin Dong slowly stood up as massive cracks extended from his feet, spreading swiftly across the mountain peak. He lifted his gaze towards Hua Qin in the distance, whose face had darkened. A cold smile curved at the corner of Lin Dong's lips. Roar. Brilliant azure light burst from within Lin Dong, covering the sky. Then, a thunderous dragon roar echoed, and countless people looked on in horror as streams of azure dragon light spiraled out from Lin Dong's body at an astonishing speed. 10, 50, 100, 200, 300. 300 dragon light streams coiled around Lin Dong, letting out piercing cries, causing visible spatial ripples to spread around him. The surrounding ground fractured wildly. 300. Tang Xinlian, Jose, and others stared in shock at Lin Dong, now surrounded by an endless stream of azure dragon light. Previously, Lin Dong had summoned just 50 azure dragon light streams to sever one of Hua Qin's arms. Now, with 300, even they could sense a strong aura of destruction. The difference between 350 was night and day. Damn it! Hua Qin's pupils narrowed sharply as he cursed. Facing the 300 spiraling azure dragon lights, he felt the chilling presence of death. Su Xiao, let's attack together. Despite his intense resentment, Hua Qin finally shouted in anger. He could sense that Lin Dong's all-out assault would be nearly impossible to withstand alone. Su Xiao, standing beside him, now looked both tense and shaken. Watching Lin Dong wrapped in a sea of azure dragon light in the distance, he grumbled in frustration. I told you we should have attacked together to kill him. This kid is far from ordinary. Yet, despite his anger, Su Xiu knew the gravity of the situation. Clenching his hands, his body rapidly darkened, exuding a sinister aura. Lin Dong's body began to lift slowly into the air, his deep black pupils containing azure light that condensed into a coiling dragon. He looked calmly at the two opponents facing him, raised his hand gently, and softly uttered a single word. Go! Roar! A deafening dragon roar echoed across the skies. Witnesses felt their scalps tingle as all 300 azure dragon light streams surged forward in unison.